Hey, welcome to the Pavel Property Show, where today I want to answer the question of, does it make sense to rent? Well, the question of rent versus own is actually twofold. Number one, can you afford it? And number two, what's the longevity of your purchase? To address point number one, well, if you have no money, well, you're probably not buying a home. But if you have 5, 10, 15% down payment, you can buy a home. You don't need that 20% that everyone is raving about. Granted, if you can get yourself up to 20%, you'll save some money on monthly fees. Now, to get into the longevity of the purchase, which is the key factor here, I usually tell people, if you're gonna own a home, own it as long as you possibly can. Even if you move out, rent it. You're gonna make a lot of money. If you're planning to leave the state, the country, or switch your job for whatever reason in the next 3 years, and you wanna sell at the end of those 3 years, you probably should rent. Most realtors won't tell you that. And the reason I say that is, in the beginning, those first 3 years, you're paying a lot of interest and not that much equity. But if you plan to own a home for 5, 10, or more years, you're actually gonna generate tons of equity, and it's gonna make sense on that monthly payment where the mortgage payment is actually higher than the rent payment. And to make sense of how it's actually a financially good investment, we need to look at the longevity of the purchase. Now, over 10 years, you might spend $300,000 on rent payments, but over those same 10 years, you could spend $380,000 on mortgage payments. But of that $380,000, about 140 of that is actually equity generated. So we're already in the green because of that. Now, the property is probably going to appreciate as well. But if you buy a home and you think it's gonna double in value in 10 years, you're probably gonna be very sadly mistaken. But if you buy a property and you think it's gonna go up 8, 9, 10% in 10 years, which is very fair and conservative, you're gonna be very happy with your overall investment. So you know what? We have $140,000 of equity generated, plus the property went up $60,000. So boom, right there's $200,000 back into your pocket, where you only spent an extra $80,000 on those mortgage payments. Do the math, we're 120K in the green. So really what you want to look at is the long term of everything. It's a financial mindset, it's a long-term financial mindset, and that's where people win in real estate. In real estate, you always make money over 10 years. That's just kind of a rule of thumb, and that's because of the equity you generate. Now, there's also tax benefits to homeownership, which I'm not going to get into. That's for your accountant to figure out. I don't want to be liable for any information. But you always want to look into the tax benefits as well, because that's also going to keep boosting your actual overall investment. I hope this has been helpful to get people to understand why people own and why people rent. Less than 3 years, rent. 5 years or more, you should probably own. Thank you for watching the Pavel Property Show. I'll see you next week.